Jeff Black again, your BFP Dream Builder from Beechmont Ford Performance, and we are once again doing a garage table on the road episode. And as you might notice in the background, we are at the Haldeman Museum here in Tipp City, Ohio. Got a big car show here today, and we have two very special guests here today, and they've been nice enough to sit down for a couple minutes and tell the story. And if you don't know who these people are, I think you will recognize the story. I have Gail Weiss and Tom Weiss.
Yes.
And Gail, I think it's more you, right? You bought the car.
I bought the car.
Okay.
Yes.
So Gail bought the very first Mustang ever sold in America.
Yes.
And she technically bought it before it was supposed to be sold. So we're going to kind of get the story. First off, I want to say thank you guys for making the trip all the way from the Chicago area.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So let's kind of start with you since you're the one who bought the car.
Okay.
So obviously you were just, were you out car shopping and you just happened to find out about this car?
Yes, I was. I had just graduated from Chicago Teachers College North and got a new job in the suburbs. So Mom, Dad, and I went looking for a new car for me. And when we went to Johnson Ford on Cicero Avenue in Chicago, I told the salesman, I want a convertible. And he said, oh, I have none on the floor, but come in the back room with me. I have something special to show you. And in the back room, under a tarp, was a skylight blue Mustang. And I went, ooh, that was for me. It was sporty, it had bucket seats, and it had the transmission on the floor. And it went zoom, zoom, and I was excited.
So at that, obviously at that time, you had no idea what a Mustang was. You probably had never seen one, right?
That's right, I had never seen it. It was shown on TV that the Mustang was coming, but nobody had seen it. Wow. So all the ad said was, it's coming, you know. So, but I didn't go shopping for a Mustang, I just went shopping for a convertible.
Right.
And in the back room of the Ford dealer, he had a hardtop and he had this convertible, but they were both covered up, so I can't tell you about the other one because I was interested in the convertible. It was perfect.
Wow. And they technically weren't supposed to be selling a car for, what, another couple of days?
A couple of days, yes, because Ford was going to unveil the Mustang at the New York World's Fair. And this was April 15th, 1964 that I bought the car, and it was going to be April 17th. They were going to do the unveiling. So it was the salesman said, I'm really not supposed to sell it tonight, but he did for $3,450.
Wow.
And my beginning teacher salary was $5,000.
Yeah, that's the thing that's hard to put in perspective nowadays is the price of the, because now everybody looks at a window sticker, one of the old ones, and they say, oh my gosh, but at the time that was actually still a decent amount of money.
Yes, yes. I mean, well, yes, gas was 20 cents a gallon. So, and how different it was back then, for sure.
So did they let you take it right then and there, or was it one of those like, well, we'll sell it to you, but we want to keep it for a couple of days for the reveal? No. They
sold it to me that night, and they let me drive it out of the showroom.
Wow.
And when I was driving it, everybody was waving to me and asking me to slow down so they could see this car. I felt like a movie star, but it wasn't me, it was the car.
And I'm guessing this all happened before you guys were married, right? Or were you?
It's before we were married, but we were...
You were together.
We were dating.
So she comes home with this car and you're like, well, what the heck is that?
I was in the service at the time, so I wasn't there.
Okay. Well, by the way, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
What branch?
Navy.
Navy. All right.
U.S. Submarine Service.
Ah, the silent service.
Yes.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes, yes.
So, obviously you take the car home as kind of your daily driver. And
I drove it to school the next day. And all these 7th and 8th grade boys were just hovering over the car. They knew about a Mustang. So then the custodian would say, Miss Brown, if I had a nickel for everybody that looks at your car, I'd be a millionaire. It was just so popular.
So you became kind of a celebrity right then and there.
I was hot, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Because of our car, yes.
So, we were talking before we started filming about the fact, most people, you buy a car, you don't realize it's anything special, and most people keep it for a few years and maybe move on to something else. And of course, back in that era, I would say people probably held on to a car longer than they do nowadays. But I mean, did you ever think about, well, maybe I'll get rid of this thing and, you know, get something else?
No, I got married. We had 4 children, and Tom bought me a station wagon. And he used the Mustang for a daily drive. So we drove the Mustang for 15 years. And then one day he came home from work and he said, there's something wrong with that car. And he pushed it in the garage. And he said, I'll fix it next week. And it sat there for 27 years.
It was on your to-do list, right?
27 years, yeah. There was stuff piled on that car, you couldn't even see it. Lawn chairs and 2x4s.
Oh my gosh.
But it was a complete car.
Yeah.
So nobody had come in there and taken any parts off of it, so.
What was wrong with it?
The carburetor linkage was stuck.
Oh.
And I figured if I started pressing on the gas pedal, I may break something.
Okay.
So I figured, I'll take care of it next week.
Yeah, typical guy, you know, I'll get to that, yeah.
And I would complain, I would say, let's get rid of that. It's just rusting away and it's taking up space for the children's stuff, you know, 4 kids, you know what stuff is.
Yeah.
And he said, oh no, that's my retirement project. So we built an addition onto our 2-car garage. So we now have a 3-car garage so we could keep the rusty Mustang.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So like at what point, or was there ever a point where you finally kind of realized that you actually had a very special car?
Not until he retired and he restored the car. And then he was looking at stories online about Mustangs, and somebody said they had the first Mustang, and Tom said, well, let's look at your receipt. I think you have a different date. So that's how we found out that our date was earlier yet than the person that was saying, I have the first Mustang.
So is that what triggered you to decide to do a full restoration on the car, or was that?
I decided to restore it in late 2005.
Okay.
And that was at the point where we were either going to get rid of the car or restore it. So 2005 we started. I gave it, I'm not a body and fender guy, but I took it all apart.
Yeah.
And the only thing left to it was the 4 wheels and the steering wheel. And I hauled it up to the restoration guy and I asked him if he could fix it. He said if he couldn't fix it, I was going to take it right to the junkyard.
Oh, wow.
But he said, yeah, we can fix it. So he kept it for about 10 months. Did the body and fender restoration. It was freshly painted in 06.
Yeah.
And then I put it back together. I did all the chrome bumpers and the wiring and the headlights and tail lights. And
wow. Yeah.
Then we took it to an interior guy
who
put the interior back together and a new top.
Yeah.
And somewhere late 2007, early 2008, it was back to original.
I'll be darned.
Oh, by the way, no alterations or any modifications.
It's all stock.
It's all stock.
Yeah.
It's the original drivetrain, engine and transmission.
How many miles do you think you actually have on the car?
Original mileage is 68,000.
68?
And the reason being is that it sat in the garage for 27 years.
So the engine wasn't rebuilt, but
it was cleaned up.
It was cleaned up, yeah.
No rebuilding.
And the carburetor got fixed.
Right. Carburetor linkage.
Okay. So you finally got your car fixed, even better than it was.
Oh, yes. I was surprised when he brought it home. Oh my gosh, wow, that was beautiful.
So was there a point where, did like Ford ever contact you and say, hey, you know, you got a kind of a special car, or how did?
Actually, it was the Mustang Club in Detroit, Moxham.
Moxham, yeah, okay, very familiar with it.
Evidently, they heard about the car and we took it to a show there, and that's when we met Mike Ray and John Clore.
Yep, they're both good friends of mine.
And we met Gail.
And we met Gail.
Yeah.
And it just mushroomed after that, yeah.
Huh. Yeah, so when you met John, this is an ongoing little joke, by the way, was it too much Clore and not enough Weiss? You've heard the story, right? Did you hear that story?
I don't think we heard that.
So at the 50th anniversary big thing of the Mustang, they filmed the movie The Faster Horse.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
And at the premiere, they were leaving the premiere, and they're there with all the Ford people and everything. And John Clore turns to Gail Halderman and says, what'd you think of the movie? Or, you know, and in front of everybody, he goes, too much chlor, not enough Halderman. Because as you know, John can tend to talk a little. John, I love you.
Yes.
Anyway, so that kind of tipped it, and then maybe Ford, did they ever actually contact you, or, you know?
I don't think it was Ford themselves. It was basically through
From Moxon.
John Clore and Moxon people.
Yeah.
And then that's how the story kind of got out.
Right.
Yeah.
Again, and then eventually Ford must have contacted us, yes, and because they invited us for the 50th anniversary.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they hauled our car up to the Ford in Dearborn, Michigan, and put it in the lobby. And when we got inside the Ford headquarters, I said, Gail, the president, well, it was the president Ford, the vice president, I forget how you say that, but anyhow, it was Mark Fields wants to meet you. So we went up to the conference room, and he was excited to meet us.
Wow.
And he said, Gail, I want you to come on stage and tell your story about buying the car. I said, oh, all right.
That's awesome. I'm just curious, did Ford, like, was there any reason did they ever, like, ask you if you want to sell the car to them, you know, for their museum or something?
No,
I'm just
no.
curious.
Yeah.
But I'm sure you've had quite a few offers to buy the ar over the years. No?
Not really.
Really? Not
Wow.
really.
We're waiting for Jay Leno to make us an offer.
Jay, just don't drive it, because, you know, you don't have a good history lately. That's right. Well, that is absolutely fantastic. And I know your son's with you here today. Assuming that he will eventually inherit the car, or was he?
Well, we have 4 children.
Uh-oh.
So you can't, yeah.
So somebody's going to be arguing over who gets the car.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, that's always a tough thing.
Yes.
But for now, you get to keep enjoying it.
That's right.
And making trips like this.
Yes.
And I'm sure were you ever in Mustang clubs like before?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
So now that you've been in some, you know, and have gone to these events and everything, tell me, do you agree with me that Mustang people are the best people in the world? I mean,
yes.
For sure.
For sure.
Best.
Oh, yes.
you meet so many great people, make
For
so many
sure.
good
Yeah.
friendships.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
yes,
just like
yes.
you talked about Mike Ray and John Clore, and even Gail and Karen here.
Yes.
I have made some of the best friends in the world.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's all because of Mustang.
I know, because of a car.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my goodness, it's amazing, yes.
Yeah.
And the people are always friendly, the Mustangers, and they all have a story to tell. So they're happy to meet us too.
Technically, what year is your car considered? Is it a 64
And a half.
And a half. That's
Technically, it's a 65 because there was nothing titled prior to that. But the early cars have
64.
become known as the 64.
Yeah, that's what I thought. You know, I mean, I assumed that's the case.
There's a few, what you might call oddities about the car that it's not on the true 65, but
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, like I told you earlier, you know, my wife and I have had a 67 that was just a 289, nice cruiser car. We had a 68 that actually had a 351 Windsor in it and was set up, you know, it had a cam and you said, lightning up.
Yeah.
But then we had a 67 GT convertible that was a full frame off restoration, concourse type car. And then we've had multiple cars over the years. But for me, I fell in love with Mustang at a very young age, not even really realizing it, because my dad had a 65 convertible. And at the time, you know, you didn't think anything of it. It was just another car, but I loved that car. And, you know, he finally got rid of it. The floorboards were rotten out and everything else. And, you know, many years later, he was like, man, I should have kept that car. You just never know.
That's right, you don't know. Yeah.
Gosh.
ours was in pretty bad shape,
Yeah.
The Chicago Winters did a rusty job on that car.
Yeah, the road salt and everything else fell apart. But it is absolutely gorgeous now. And we're happy you're here today to show it off a little bit. And let
Happy to be here.
Yes.
Good.
No, we were anxious to come,
Well, thank you very much for sitting down with me. Guys, this is again Jeff Black, your BFP Dream Builder from Beechmont Ford Performance with Gail and Tom Weiss. And if you don't mind, down in the comments section, if you got any questions, throw them out, because eventually they're going to be seeing this video and maybe they'll just comment back.
Oh, we'll comment for sure.
All right, so we have a little...
Yeah, go Mustang.
Yeah. So we have a little sign off that I always do on here.
Oh,
and
okay.
So I'm going to ask you to get your fingers ready like this.
Okay.
And then you'll catch on here in a second. So Jeff Black, your BFP Dream Builder, saying bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.